Guys, there is nothing like the perfectly made ginger snap. It's beautiful. Little cracks in the top, the glistening sparkle of the sugar on the outside, and the beautiful snap it makes when you bite into it. Gingersnap cookies.
Howdy folks, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. Guys, on this episode we're going to be making some ginger snaps. This is a wonderful holiday treat. Mom used to do this for us when I was a boy each and every year. And I have to admit, I can't say that I had a favorite cookie when it came to her cookies because they were just all so delicious. The ginger snaps were very memorable. I remember how hard and crisp they were. And I remember that sharp flavor of spice that they had. It was wonderful. And I wanted to share this recipe of my mother's with you. So today we're going to be making an absolutely fantastic cookie. And this cookie I'm going to be putting in, I believe, either my intermediate or advanced cooking series. Because, for one reason, guys, this one is rather complex in the details. It's not complex in how you make it, but if you don't follow the details on this cookie, for some reason it just doesn't seem to come out right. So I'll tell you what, let's get on in the kitchen. Let me show you what we're using to make these delicious cookies, and let's mix us up a batch of ginger snaps. Come on guys, let's go. Okay guys, here we are with our beautiful ingredients. Now this is a fairly basic recipe when it comes to ginger snaps, but you need to get A, the exact measurement on your ingredients, and then B, you're going to have to follow these directions very, very carefully, because if you don't do the proper cool down, it's not going to work. If you don't warm the butter the right way, it's not going to work. So guys, it's all about harmony on this particular recipe. So first off, let me tell you all about our ingredients. What we have here, this is 2 1/2 cups of flour, and I'm going to need to sift this. That's why I have it in a strainer. You can use a sifter too. Either will work. All you're doing is passing the flour through that screen. Okay, the next thing, 3/4 cup of granulated sugar and 1/2 cup of molasses. Oh man, that stuff is so good tasting. To make the right texture on all of this, we're going to need some baking soda, and what I have here, this is 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, and 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. If it doesn't sound like enough, guys, don't worry. Trust me, cloves are very strong. Over here, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, and some thyme. Now the first thing I have done is I've taken this butter, I've cut it up and put it right down in here. This is 3/4 cup of butter, and if you're not sure how much that is, if you buy your butter in 1 pound packages and inside it's divided into 1/4 pound sticks, that is 1 1/2 sticks of butter right there, guys. Easy to know. You have to wait for this to come up in temperature for it to get soft. If the butter isn't at room temperature, or roughly between 70 to 75 degrees, it won't fluff properly when we go to creaming it, and the cookies won't have the right texture to them after the fact. So everything's got to be, like I said, just right on this. So we bring our butter up in temperature, and once it is at room temperature and nice and soft, then we're going to put it onto the mixer and get all of this going. Before we do that, we've got to handle this flour over here, and as I sift it, I'm also going to work my dry ingredients into that at the same time. Okay guys, now let's get on with sifting our flour out. The idea of sifting flour is to make sure there's A, no lumps in it, and B, to lighten it, to kind of aerate the flour, as it were, which makes the whole dish a little lighter and fluffier when you work it together in a mixer. All right, now some people go ahead and put all of these ingredients in while they are sifting. Some people mix them in afterwards. You can do it either way, guys. See what I'm doing here? A little tapping. Now, that's the tapping. Also, there's the bumping method like this, which I believe works just a little bit faster. Look in the bottom here, guys. You see this? As I was telling you, sometimes you'll get little clumps of flour. And sure enough, that's what we had here. And this is one of the reasons we sift. Now let's go ahead and get the rest of our ingredients in here. There's our salt, right there. There's our baking powder. Excuse me, baking soda, not baking powder. Forgive me for saying that. All right, they are not the same thing, guys. Baking powder contains baking soda, but it has some other stuff in it too, and it takes more of it. And on some recipes, it's not needed. Now, what I've got here, my spices in there, watch what I do. And it's simple. I just use my whisk to work those in, and that's all it's going to take. It doesn't have to go really any beyond this, okay? All we have to do is wait for that butter to get good and warm, and once it's warm, we're ready to start making our cookies. Okay guys, our butter has become room temperature and it is very soft, okay? We need to cream the butter, and what that does is it adds air to it, volume, it makes it light, and it produces a much better quality cookie, frankly. Also, when we're creaming it, we're going to cream in the molasses, the sugar, and this egg. Before you go creaming anything, go ahead and take that egg. Let's break it, crack it into our dish. So let's go ahead and get all of this done. Now, the first thing I need is the beater. I'm gonna hook it up. Now guys, something I have to say, when you're going to be creaming a fat and then you cream usually like sugar of some type and maybe an egg into it, always start by softening that fat first. Whether you're using butter or some other form of fat like lard or maybe all vegetable shortening or something like that, regardless of which one you're using, please go ahead and cream that item first. Now I'm going to crank this up. We're going to get it creamed. Come over here and take a look inside, guys. There we go. So as you see, that beater is just going to sit and work that until it gets nice and soft. Now I'm going to speed it up so we can really get it going here. Occasionally you're going to have to use a spatula to work it off of the sides of the bowl. Okay guys. Now there we go. That's a little more tame. Let's take a look in this, and occasionally what you need to do is to loosen your bowl, and you're going to have to scrape the sides. Now, sometimes on certain mixers, they have special paddles that have a silicone edge that will scrape the bowl. Those are wonderful. But occasionally, your product gets pushed up above that paddle, so you still got to do this anyway. Get used to it. And I've never seen any mixer that that didn't really apply to. So my butter has gotten lighter in color. That was about, I think around 45 seconds, guys. Not very long. I'm going to do that one more time, and then I'm going to start working in my sugar, molasses, and egg. Alrighty. There we go. That was one more minute, okay? That was it, just a single minute. See how it has turned an even lighter color? So it is now just a little more aerated, a little more fluffy. It is lighter, I feel it already that way on my spatula here. It's a good feeling, I like that. Now apparently I have a couple of my viewers who think I'm channeling Bob Ross.
Hey, what a compliment. That's really cool. Thank you. Now guys, when you're adding your sugar, you don't want to dump it in all at once. Just a little at a time. So it's running at a moderate speed now, about medium. We're going to do that for just about 30 seconds. And then I'm going to add a little bit, if not all, of that molasses. We're going to do it again, and we're just going to slowly work this out and turn this into a wonderful, light, fluffy medium before we put the flour in it. Guys, the reason I like to show this from angles like this is because it reminds me of when I was a kid. And I would sit and watch my mother cook. It really teaches when you're right over that mixer. I learned that as a kid, and I carry it with me as an adult, and that's the reason I teach this way. I'm going to add a little more of the sugar very slowly. If you dump it in too quick when you're running at a speed like this, it's going to kick it out at you guys. So very gently let those grains fall. Isn't that beautiful? I'm going to slow it down. It's time to put that egg in. I've got about a little more than half of the sugar and a little more than half of my molasses. So in goes the egg. I want to let it process, and I slow it down because that egg is got a light viscosity and it'll get thrown out if I don't. When we are doing this, we want to make it light and fluffy. My mother's instructions were quite clear, and she was generally dead on when it came to baking instructions. So this needs to be creamed until light and fluffy. So I'm going to turn it back up again. I'm going to add the last of my sugar, and we're just going to let it go. And it'll probably be a few minutes in that process. I'll tell you exactly how long it took. Okay guys, we now have a beautiful light and fluffy mixture. I'm going to slowly work in those dry ingredients. And as I told you before, when it comes to mixing things in, if you do it on high speed, you're probably going to regret it. This is one of those moments. Flour just loves to get knocked up into a little cloud, okay? So take your time. There's no rush. I want to show you one of the things I like to do, which is I will simply use a measuring cup as a scoop and work it in gently. There's a lot of neat gadgets that come with mixers like this. They make a mixing collar that fits over this with a little chute that you can dump stuff into. I love that thing. I have one on my other mixer. However, I say this, not such a great idea when it comes to shooting a show and you want people to actually see what's really going on in it. Those little mixing shields aren't the best for that. Guys, this has only been just a few seconds of mixing, about what, 30 to 40 seconds there. We have a beautiful dough forming. Okay, wonderful. And as always, as I say, just scrape down that bowl on the sides. So guys, now that we get that all scraped down on the edges, let's give it one more go, and then I'm going to scrape down my beater and put this bowl in the refrigerator. Get the rest of that just turned real nice. And one thing I'm going to do is I am not going to leave this dough in a ball in the bottom. I want to have it kind of pushed up around the sides a little bit because I have to refrigerate it, guys. While this is a beautiful dough, it is sticky, it's wet, and I need to get it to firm up before it's going to bake up the way it needs to do, okay? And one little last warning here, if you would, please do not let the kids lick the bowl after it has been used. Don't let them lick the beaters. You've got raw egg in that, guys, and it's just a little bit too much risk, okay? That's the reason that people tell you don't ever eat raw cookie dough. There's raw egg in it, and if that egg got too hot at any point, there could be some concerns with certain types of bacteria. You don't need that in your life, okay? So just don't do it. Let's put this in the fridge, and it needs at least 1 hour in the refrigerator or more, and that way the dough gets stiff and it will bake properly at that point. Okay guys, it has been 2 hours now. Like I said, put this in the fridge for at least 1 hour or more
try not to go over about 4 hours. You don't want your leavening to die on you, basically. In other words, to get you exhausted. But on this, what we need to do now, have this beautiful batter. It has gotten thick because I refrigerated it. So I want to take it, pull it up, make a little ball, okay, just like this. And while it's still cool, douse it in the sugar and press it out on my sheet. Now that one was a little bit small. Let me get a little bigger one. And that sugar, once it's rolled, there. And I want to press these just before I cook them, but basically I'm not going to press them all the way. They're just going to be kind of partially pressed down, just like so. Okay guys, so it's a really, really simple thing. You know, don't overwork that, okay? So there's your nice little close-up on it. You can kind of see how they're done. So let's look at that a little more. And you want to work as quickly as absolutely possible on this, okay? Bam. You see I'm not overworking it. The ball doesn't have to be too perfect. Get them down in that sugar, put them on my sheet, okay? Now guys, don't forget, let's preheat our oven. That oven needs to be at 350 degrees. When you start working these, it's important, like I said guys, the whole idea of refrigerating the dough is to it makes it workable, but also it changes its rising properties in the oven. So that is an important an important part of this. You kind of got to get that all down right. If this is not cool, number one, these are going to stick to your hands really bad as you're trying to make them. But also, they're just not going to form right in the oven. And what I'm making here is about a 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch diameter ball. And to scoop, I'm just using your regular everyday spoon. Okay, now if you don't want to press those down by hand, you can use something else. However, remember, it doesn't always work perfect. There we go. This will give you a little more uniform appearance on those. And you don't want to press them flat, guys. You just kind of want to get them started, all right? Because remember, they are refrigerated and thick. So this gives them their kind of beginning in their shape. From there, they will shape themselves. Now, it's a matter of getting this in the oven. There we go. All right, guys, right there. That's going to be in there for about 12 to 15 minutes. After that, we're going to pull them out. I'm going to let them set on the pan for about a minute after I pull them out of the oven. And then we're going to put them on a cooling rack. Okay? After that, once the cookies are cooled, they're ready to be enjoyed. So, right now, we just let the oven do its job. Oh, there it is, guys. Beautiful, beautiful Gingersnap cookies. Now, this one. Look at that beautiful. See the customary cracks in the surface of it? That's very normal for a Gingersnap. All of the things I've just shown you, chilling your dough, the prep exactly the way it is, yields this wonderful, crunchy little cookie. Mmm. Nice snap to it. And as it cools further, it'll harden to a crisp crunch. Oh God, that flavor is so good. These wonderful, wonderful tones. When you combine molasses and ginger and just that little bit of cloves, it makes for an incredible cookie. Man. Mmm. Very good tasting. Well, here's you a holiday treat for your kids. Gingersnap cookies. Please don't hold back on this one. Let them have it. It's a wonderful recipe. This is an old world recipe, folks. I believe this one dates back to Grandma or before. Guys, I would like to say thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking today. Thank you to my subscribers, and please, if you would, just click like, leave a comment, a question. I'll gladly answer for you if I do have time, and most of them, if you've noticed, I do my best. Well, thank you very much for watching again, and folks, if you would, one last thing, just have a good day. Bye-bye.